Good day to all those who are attending this first session of our Tall Tales contest seminar. For a person who does not know how to tell a tall tale, this is going to be really exciting. And for those people who know how to tell tall tales, you can learn even more tips and tricks. So, welcome, good evening to all our dedicated Toastmasters and to our distinguished guests. Pune Advanced Toastmasters Club is hosting this for the very first time. Our club mission is to provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Before we begin, just a few rules to be observed. Kindly put all your mobile phones on mute so that we have no interruptions. Kindly put your videos off if you are instructed to do so. Otherwise, do enjoy the program and interact and be active in our event today. You can use the emojis of thumbs up and claps to react throughout the meeting. And I request you to sit in a quiet place and put all noise-making devices on silent. Today, we have a fantastic lineup of speakers, past winners of the Tall Tales contest, and a trainer, our very own Sameer Naik. So with a round of applause, I would like to hand back to our Master of Ceremonies today, Anuradha Anand. Over to you, Anu.
Thank you, Sergeant at Arms, Distinguished Toastmaster Mukta. I would like to have our contest convener, Distinguished Toastmaster Vishnu, just briefly introduce Tall Tales to the audience. Thank you. Vishnu, over to you.
Thank you, Distinguished Toastmaster Anuradha. Good evening, everybody, and good morning. I welcome you all to this special seminar on Tall Tales for Pune, conducted by Pune Advanced Toastmasters Club. So what is the objective for conducting this Tall Tales seminar? Basically, Pune Advanced Toastmasters Club, which is a club based out of Pune, India, and belongs to District 98, is conducting Tall Tales contest for all the Toastmasters in Pune, the city of Pune, for the past 3 years. And this is going to be our 4th season, and this Tall Tales contest is going to be conducted on December 13th to 2020. To enable and bring awareness of Tall Tales to Toastmasters in Pune community, we are doing this for the past 3 years, and this particular session, or rather seminar, we are doing it for the very first time to bring awareness for all the contestants who are aspiring to contest on our Tall Tales contest. So I won't take much of the limelight today, because today is going to be for our champions from the past, as well as somebody who is joining from all the way from USA, Washington, DC, Lynn, who is a Tall Tales champion of District 29. Without much further ado, let me hand over back to our Master of Ceremony for this seminar. Anuradha, over to you.
Thank you, Distinguished Toastmaster Vishnu. Tall Tales is the only time when you can really feel tall, physically tall. At 5'3", I don't mind becoming a little taller than that, and I use this opportunity to become very tall. We have 3 champions from the Toastmasters world who have done Tall Tales themselves. I do not know whether they are tall themselves, but they definitely have spoken in a very tall manner. We have 3 wonderful, experienced champions here. We have Distinguished Toastmaster Lynn. Lynn Strang is a member of Galloping Governors, Sparkling Toastmasters, all the way in USA, District 29, and she has been a most recent winner of Tall Tales contest in District 29. Incidentally, it was the very first time District 29 had a Tall Tales contest, so they learned how to do Tall Tales at a district level. She has been a Toastmaster for more than 2 decades that I can count. She said 1990s and left it open, but she has been very active for the last 4 years. And she's also an author. If you go to her webpage, lynstrang.com, you will find she has a wealth of information. She has a book she has written. So please do look her up. All the way in US, based in Washington DC, is Lynn Strang. We then have our Tall Tales champion of 2018, the second round Pune Advanced Toastmasters held the competition, Mohammad Irfan. And Mohammad Irfan is a member of Infosys Toastmasters Club, a member since 2016, and among the youngest Tall Tales champions, I think, in the world. He's going to tell us as well what he felt doing a very tall tale. Mohammad, I won't ask you how tall you are, don't worry. And then we have our very own Joe Rajan, who won the Tall Tales last year. And last year, he competed among, I think, about more than 20 odd contestants and stood first. Been a Toastmaster for 5 years. He's an area director for Division D, and a member of Karate Toastmasters. And he too is going to tell us not how tall he is, but how he did his tall tale. With that, I'm going to open the floor out. We have the 3 speakers who will be having a tête-à-tête with you, the audience. Tête-à-tête means one-on-one. I will not be interrupting. They have the floor with you, the audience, for the next 10 minutes. So let's first welcome distinguished Toastmaster Lynn. Lynn, over to you. Please tell us all about your tall tale win at District 29. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be joining you from District 29, which has been mentioned, is in Washington, D.C. Our spring contest season was unique for a couple of reasons. As was mentioned, this is the first time we held a Tall Tales contest, and it was the first time that we held contests online. So both of those things presented a learning curve for us. My Tall Tales journey began at the club level. We had our club contest in February. The area and division contests were held in April, and then the district championship took place on May 23rd of this year. The title of my speech was Aunt Lulu's True Love. It was the story about my fictitious Aunt Lulu, who is 7 feet 2 inches tall. So this was really a tall tale. Aunt Lulu's home is in the southern part of the United States. And it's a lovely town, but it doesn't offer much opportunity. So when she turns 18, she decides to join the military, where she meets the love of her life, Harvey, who appears to be the same height as she. They fall in love. One night, Harvey decides to ask Lulu to marry him. And that's when she discovered, well, although she thought they were the same height, they weren't actually the same height. He's actually 2 feet shorter than she. And he's been wearing platform shoes the whole time that were given to him by his good friend, Elton John, the singer. But despite the height difference, they decide to get married anyway, and they have a big wedding, and Elton John comes and plays music at the reception. Everybody has a great time. The moral of the story, it doesn't matter how tall you are or how short you are, it's what's inside that counts when it comes to happy relationships. That's a quick synopsis of my tall tale. Be happy to answer any questions as we get later into the program.
Anu, you're on mute.
Sorry. Thank you, Lynn. As you said, height doesn't matter. It just matters of the heart that matters, doesn't it? Truly a tall tale. We next have our Toastmaster winner from 2019, last year, Toastmaster Joe Rajan, who is going to briefly tell us about his tall tale experience last year. Over to you, Joe.
Thank you, Toastmaster Anuradha and fellow Toastmasters and all the tall and short people here. I am a big fan of using something which is trending. So last year, almost same time, almost like this, Toastmaster Sameer conducted an education session on tall tales. I picked him as a prop for my speech. So during the speech, I told that how Sameer has some supernatural powers. Now, Sameer was also there in the audience. So that was instant audience connect. Everybody was throughout the speech, in fact, half of the time looking at me and the rest of the time looking at Sameer, because the entire speech I was describing about how Sameer has some supernatural powers. For example, I said Sameer was delivering wonderful speeches where there was one guy who was taking notes of it. Now, a kid who was taking notes of it who grew up to become, guess, any guesses? Sashi Tharoor. And Mukta was there, and she was the program quality director. She was the contest chair. So I used her also in the speech where I said, there is one kid who listened to Sameer's speech and said, this is a quality program, who eventually grew up to become the program quality director, Mukta. So I used the people over there, popular people over there as a prop. Apart from that, the concept of the entire speech was about hair. Though you could see that I don't have a lot of hair, I had to do a very simple task. I had to just shave whatever little hair I had, and that I could do the previous night. But for a month, I was growing beard. The concept goes like this, where I was talking about a lot of supernatural powers, Sameer, as I mentioned one more thing, where I said the only way I could get my hair is when Sameer touches me. That is how the story goes. The story builds on. Finally, when I get to see Sameer gets excited and touches my face. So instead of getting my hair on my head, I end up getting it on my face. And the moral of the story was, don't search for happiness in the same place where you have lost it. If you're positive, you will find happiness everywhere.
Beautiful story there, Joe. I was laughing away. I think I was reliving it. I heard it last year and I was just reliving that whole episode. Thank you for the share. We next have our 2018 champion, Toastmaster Mohammed Irfan. Mohammed, please do tell us about your experience in the second Tall Tale contest of Pune Advanced Toastmasters Club. Over to you, Irfan.
Thank you, Anuradha. Good evening or good morning, whichever it suits you. Don't judge a person by looking at his background on Zoom call. I don't own this. Neither I own the place where I am sitting because it's owned by my father. I own a tall tale. My tall tale, the title of my tall tale was Secrets. I Googled which are the most trending news during that time, right from the demonetization, Trump becoming the president, Kingfisher, all I have gathered, which most of the people knows about the trending news. I made a story based on those events as if I am the instrumental because everything has happened because of me. I took the decision. No one knows that. Only the people who are attending the tall tale contest, I am sharing exclusively with them. I ask them not to share the stories with anyone because I don't need any credit for my priceless contribution. So my story was all about the historical events which are the famous, most of the people knows in this world, at least in India. So I was focusing on the audience connectivity because when we are delivering, so people should know about the event. My exaggeration about the events is I became the reason. I am the instrumental in taking those decisions. They have taken the decisions because of me. Otherwise, it would not have happened. So it's this is all about just about my tall tale story, Anuradha. Thank you.
Thank you, Irfan. I do remember your speech as well in 2018. And I think a lot of people must be giving you some credit, if I can put it in quotes, about it. I think we'll rerun that tall tale again just so that you get even more credit from the government and from all the people who are affected by it. Have you grown any taller after that?
Yeah, even if I want to connect, if I want to say on top of that story, I can say recently Joe Biden has won the election. So I was the instrumental in Trump becoming the president. So if I want to add to that story, what I can say is recently I made a call to Donald Trump. He spoke me very arrogantly. So I wanted to change the president. I asked Barack Obama to change the best candidate to win over the Donald Trump. So we have the Joe Biden. He was so aged, but I requested him to serve this world so that we have already divided. Only he can unite this world. Because of me, Joe Biden became the president. So I can add it to that if I get an opportunity.
Thank you so much, Irfan. I think people from the US will be reporting you to the president very soon. Thanks. With that, we now hand over to the next segment. A person who is going to manage that. He's a guru for high performance leadership. He's a guru for peak champions. He's a guru for evaluation. So we call him the in-house expert. He's a trainer. He's a software engineer by profession, but he's also a trainer. He's a coach. He's a mentor. Many hats that he wears. He's also a flautist. He is a very avid reader of the scriptures, so very, very well versed. And who else can you go to for the theory of tall tales? You have seen his video that he did last year, and today here he is in person to give his gyan meaning knowledge about tall tales. And he is tall. So let's welcome distinguished Toastmaster Sameer to do tall tales pedagogy. Over to you, Sameer.
Thank you so much, Anuradha. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone on this call. Tall tales. Wow. So I'm here to speak about the theory, and I believe exemplifying things makes things much simpler to understand what a tall tale is. Let's understand with a very famous example. And here I am. I'm just sharing my screen. Just give me one moment. So please let me know once the screen is visible.
Vishnu, is the screen sharing enabled for Sameer? Yeah.
Okay, is the screen visible?
Yes, to me, it's visible. Can we have a thumbs up, everybody who can see it?
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you so much. Okay, and here's the example. Please identify this movie. A very famous Hollywood movie. Year was 2000.
Mad Max.
15th December 2000. Yes. Mel Gibson and Helen Hunt. Okay, I'll give it to you.
Children says what women want.
Yes, perfect. That was the movie, What Women Want. And it was written by 3 specialists, Josh Goldsmith, Kathy Yuspa, and Diana Dark, and directed by Nancy Mears and starring none other than Mel Gibson and Helen Hunt. Now, this is a perfect example of tall tales. If you have to go and watch this movie is a perfect example of tall tales. And I'll come to that in a moment. But this movie was also adapted, and there was a Marathi movie that came in 2004, which was adapted from What Women Want, and it was Agabai Arecha, and it was directed by the master director Kedar Shinde, and again it was starred by Sanjay. So here's the plot of this entire story. If I have to put it in one single line, the protagonist, by accident, gets the ability to hear what women think. Just in one single line. Okay? And why this movie is so special? So if we see this movie, Mel Gibson or Sanjay Narvekar, they are normal human beings. And there happens an accident in their life. And then they get this ability to hear what women think. So it moves very smoothly from what is possible, a normal human being, and then there an accident happens. So there's some probability of something changing within the protagonist. And then it starts moving from probable to improbable. And it opens up the Pandora box. And you have to just watch the movie. What happens next? So if you are preparing for tall tales, watch these 2 movies, What Women Want and Agabai Arecha. And it's Diwali time, so you have lots of time next weekend. Probably you can watch. Don't watch them on the same day, watch them on different days. The plot is same. The setup is different. The plot is same as we see. The protagonist by accident gets ability to hear what women think, but the setup is different. The protagonists, they come from different backgrounds. And what I want you to observe is this, the highlighted word, the accident, how it happens, how it smoothly transits from what is possible into what is probable. Very smoothly it will move from possible, and it will answer all the logical minds that, hey, those who will think, hey, this is not possible, this cannot happen. It will answer those people also. See the transition, and then what happens in the improbability zone. And why this is an example of tall tales. So let's understand what tall tales is. So if we have to compare tall tales against fairy tales, fables, myths, and legends, tall tales says that the character is an everyday people with superhuman abilities. Okay. And it would help in 7 minutes if you also speak about how those superhuman abilities were, the person got them. Just by saying that the person was born would not help, because then again the genetics comes in. How did the parent get it? So just answer that question also. How did the protagonist get it in first place? So the accident, how it happens. That's very interesting in the movies. See how it is done. The setting says that it is linked to a real historical time period. Okay. The problem statement. Now these tall tales, they have a problem and solution kind of a structure. And in problem, if we see this movies, we'll realize that the problem statement is, we all have problems in our lives. There are ups and downs, and it's only the positive outlook towards life that will keep us on. That's the problem and solution. The solution is to have the positive attitude towards life. And that is the solution. There is a humorous ending, and it tells about person's accomplishments. Okay, so it's very simple. Tall tales, it has to fall into these 4 things. So if someone is wondering whether my story is a tall tale or not, whether my speech is a tall tale or not, just put this in matrix and try to see if you are having characters who are having some superhuman abilities. See if it is a incident that has happened, historical, or probability of it happening, and then speak about a problem statement and try to solve that problem statement using those superhuman abilities that the protagonist has. Okay, very simple. And now the tall tales contest has a judges ballot. And before I come to the judges ballot, let's try and have an example of this, a live example. Okay, so this story goes back to my graduation days. And in the first year, I had a friend called Vishal, and Vishal had come from rural outskirts of Maharashtra. He hailed from a poor family. His father was a farmer, and a very sharp boy, a very sharp and studious person who had made it up till the engineering on merit. And as I said, he hailed from a poor family. He didn't have pocket money for his day-to-day activities, and so much so that even for his daily meals, the afternoon meal and the evening meal, he didn't have money. And he had struck a deal with a nearby canteen person, and the deal was simple. Whatever stale food was left over night, he would buy it from the canteen person at half rate next day afternoon. Okay, and same happened in the evening also. He would buy the stale food from the canteen person, and he survived for 4 years on stale food. Initially, his digestive system, there was some challenges, problems, but eventually he coped up. And there we had Vishal. He had topped the engineering, and someone who had survived on stale food. Now, this is the setup. Now, assume that this is a setup for a tall tale. And I have given you the setup. And now you have to take it to the next level. Okay. We have to say that this Vishal got some superhuman abilities. How it can happen? So because Vishal was eating stale food every single day, there are some special bacteria that the food was developing. And these bacteria, when they entered into his body, into his bloodstream, they had some different effect on him. And then suddenly he had some special abilities which a normal human being would not have, because of the bacteria entering into the bloodstream and then they releasing some chemicals into the bloodstream. Okay. Now what all can happen? I have just opened up a Pandora box for you. Okay, this never happened. Okay, there was no Vishal Fend in my graduation days, but I'm giving you a smooth transition into, if you have to say that, okay, a person got superhuman abilities, how can it happen in a normal day-to-day life? So okay, probably we don't eat stale food every day. Okay, for once in a while, maybe if we are traveling or something, and probably if we don't have any option, we might. But what are the chances? What would happen if a person has to eat it every single day? Can it bring about some change in his metabolism, change in his thought process, the change in the way he conducts? Can it lead to some superhuman abilities? Keep the audience thinking, and it can keep it opens up a Pandora box. And this is just the setup, the first 2 minutes of the speech. You have to develop it further, what supernatural power he got and what he did with all those supernatural powers. Okay, so I just give you an example, a very quick example of what how we can smoothly transit. And here is the judges ballot, which is about the, now the highlighted thing is the only special thing about tall tales. Effective, that is speech techniques, and that has 25 points. Rest everything comes in either of the contests. It's a humorous speech contest or an international speech contest. You'll have speech development, physical, voice appropriateness, but speech techniques is unique. And within that, we have exaggeration, irony, pun, surprise, twists, humor, slapsticks, etc. So I'll request you all to watch the video that has been shared and understand the progression from possible to the probable to improbable, and how to develop a nice tall tale. So over to you. That's it from my side about the tall tales theory, and over to you. Thank you so much, DTM Anuradha.
Thanks, Tall Tales Guru, distinguished Toastmaster Sameer. I've already started thinking of what can happen if he has stale food for 4 years. I can tell you what I think will happen. He will get an iron stomach and he can start digesting anything which is metal. So he becomes Magneto, as in like Magneto in the Marvel movie. So he starts attracting any metal to him because he got an iron stomach. That said, okay, let's go on. I'm not doing the tall tales. I'm just the MOC. So we have questions which are already posed to our champions. So I'm going to give them 3 minutes each to answer 2 key questions which we have. First one would be, how did you select your topic? So give us a little briefing on how you did the development, character setting, the 4 points which Sameer just told us all about. And secondly, what kind of exaggeration tools did you use? The physical, the voice, the body language, props. So we want to leave the floor to you on about your speech. How did you go about it? So we'll start again with distinguished Toastmaster Lynn. Lynn, the floor is open to you.
Thank you. In terms of choosing the topic for my speech, I did what I do with most of my speeches, which is I turn to events in my own life. I had already been planning to do a speech about height because I am a tall person. I'm a tall woman. I'd already been thinking about that topic for some time. And so when the Tall Tales contest came along, it provided an opportunity for me to address that topic in a humorous way. So I decided to channel my interest in that subject towards the Tall Tales contest. And I coupled that idea with another true life event in my life. The character of Aunt Lulu is modeled after my own mother, who is from a small town in the South. She actually did join the US Air Force at age 18, and she met my father while she was in the Air Force, and they decided to get married after only knowing each other for 4 months. Now, they are not that tall as the characters in my story, but I used that theme in my own life to craft my tall tale. In terms of techniques that I used for my tale, I used accents. As I mentioned, my character is from the South, and my mother actually is from the South. I've grown up with that accent, so I'm familiar with it, and I use that knowledge to implement that in my tall tale. Yeah, I exaggerated it to make it a really strong Southern accent. I also used a lot of facial expressions, And on that note, I wanted to mention that one of the advantages to competing virtually like this is it allows us to really use facial expressions in an exaggerated way, because the audience can see your face much more clearly than they can if you were standing in an in-person environment on a stage. So use that to advantage. For example, if I lean in and talk to you, you can really see my face, and that plays in well for a tall tale competition, I think. I did use body language, but I used it sparingly. And on that note, I wanted to mention that when we are on Zoom like we are now, when you do gestures, I would suggest you need to slow them down a little bit, because when you do them too quickly, they blur. See how they blur if I move them too fast? So be aware of that when you are using gestures in your tall tale speech. I use props, but I use them very selectively, in part for effect, and also because the more props you have, the more things you have to think about and worry about and plan for in your speech. So if you use props, use them for effect, but try to limit them so that you aren't distracted by all the logistics of having to use those effectively. I also use puns here and there. For example, at one point, instead of saying good things come in small packages, I said good things come in tall packages. So a combination of all those things, I think, served me well in putting together a winning speech for our district.
Thank you very much. I do agree, distinguished Toastmaster Lynn, Zoom allows a face to be in focus, but you also see the wrinkles. What do you do about that? All right,
I'm still looking for the answer to that one.
Yeah. All right, with that, let's move on to our next champion, Toastmaster Joe. Please do shed some light on what happened with your speech development and the exaggeration tools that you use.
Thank you, Toastmaster Anuradha. They say your weakness could be your strength. So when I was thinking what's my weakness, something which was right on top of my head was something which is not in the top of my head. So I decided the concept would be hair. But what the twist I gave was, I didn't say like I had supernatural powers and I did something and I got something. As I mentioned earlier, I use Sameer as that person with supernatural power, and that's how the entire story was. So he has a lot of supernatural powers, and when I meet him, he need to touch my head and I'll get my hair. So the entire story goes on where I explain, exaggerate in terms of how he has that supernatural powers, where there is a lot of, when it comes to tall tales, like that climax, that ending, right? So that if there is some twist, that is very, very critical, because everybody expecting something like a story. So this is how it goes. I'm in search of my hair, somebody need to touch, but finally it touches me, but it touches on my face. So I get my beard instead of my hair. So that was the twist there. Also, throughout the speech, I keep talking about Sameer's supernatural powers. There is one space where I say, in a large crowd, Sameer managed to spot me. And then I say, no, this time there is nothing special about Sameer. Anybody can spot me in any crowd. So that was a twist which nobody expected. So have such lines which would add, like, apart from what they're expecting. And there is another interesting story which I'd like to share. I wanted to wear some attire, some t-shirt which had something funny to do with hair loss. But I tried almost for this idea came to me just a couple of days before the speech. So I went shopping, I couldn't find any t-shirt. Finally, all I could manage is a t-shirt which had wordings, which is something whoever printed that was with such positive note. It says, look on the brighter side. But I converted it for my use. So with a bald head, when I wore that t-shirt, look on the bright side, even before I started the speech, a lot of them were looking on the brighter side. In my initial script, all I had was, don't search for happiness in the same place where you have lost it. If you're positive, you will find happiness everywhere. But after I bought this t-shirt, I made that small change to the script where I said, don't search for happiness in the same place where you lost it. If you search for happiness and if you stay positive, you will look on the bright side and you will find happiness everywhere. So that a couple of lines in the t-shirt was also part of the script. That is how every single action of yours, the attire you wear, your facial expressions is part of the script. You need not to insert it. That doesn't, it would just look like you added that just for the sake of it. It should be part of the story. It should be part of the script so that everyone feels that, okay, looks like this t-shirt was printed exclusively for the speech. That is exactly the way you got to present it. So that's it from my side. Over to Toastmaster.
Yeah, you use your head. I use a light to make it bright. I don't have a choice otherwise. All right. With that, let's move on to our next champion, Toastmaster Irfan. Do share with us your experience because you were using trending news. So now, how did you go about it? What exaggeration tool did you use?
Sure, sure. Thank you, Anuradha, once again. So choosing a topic, the first point is choosing a topic. I almost took 1 week to decide on the topic. I was thinking there are 2-3 topics running in my mind. The first topic was Indian Dream. It was like no one need US visa at that minute. Everyone has their own helipad on their home and there is no lust of pizza. Everyone eating paratha and drinking amla ras. There is no beggar in India. Even 1 minute electricity as international issue, government lost its majority because of that 1 minute. I was gathering all these points. It looks like, okay, this was the dream. I have written that. The next idea I have is I wanted to write some tall tale on the trending news. That was like I shared you, Donald Trump becoming the president, Kingfisher Airlines, he leaving India, and Modi note ban issue, and these are the models turning into Toastmasters, and even Manoj Vasudevan was coming. I have added him also. So I felt I have written 2 speeches. I shared with some of my friends. I asked them to read in front of me. I decided whichever script got more laughs, I will go with that script. I asked them to silently read them. I was reading, okay, which script has more laugh, more people are smiling. I shared among with 10 people. And 10 of my friends was okay. This tall tale was better. This is going to. So I practiced it. I decided like this on the topic wise. Coming to the technique wise, I feel in any speech, content is the king, and delivery is the queen, and podium is the kingdom. So I have written king size content. That is for sure because many people can relate. The first thing is whenever we are speaking, everyone has to know. Everyone knows that this is not true, but people will, all we need is laugh. So next thing is coming to the delivery. I was very serious, even I was not laughing as if I am the reason behind that. I was in a complete confidence that I am the reason to happen everything in this world, whichever major thing happened during that time. That was my confidence. I didn't use the stage much. I was simply standing on the podium. I just played with my content, and exaggeration is by content wise only. I have had every famous personality is my prop on that day, right from Modi, Donald Trump, Vijay Mallya, and Toastmasters, world champion. Everyone who's ever sitting there is my prop today. I have used them as a prop, and I didn't use any other technique. I just delivered with my content. So gracefully I have won because of that. You asked me to share that. That's all I wanted to share about the techniques. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Toastmaster Irfan. Yeah, but did you find your queen in the process?
No, I'm yet to find it. 2
You're
queens
yet
have
to
already
find it.
lost.
All right, maybe that will be your next tall tale, how to find the queen.
Sure, sure.
With that, with that, we will now ask for specifically tips and tricks. Now, tall tales has so many tricks that you can deploy apart from techniques. So, what are the 2 or 3 important tips or tricks that you want to offer to the audience? I leave the floor again to you, distinguished Toastmaster Lynn.
Thank you. My 3 tips that I'm going to share are going to echo many of the themes that we've already talked about today. The first one is to keep it real, sort of. And by that, I mean, I believe that a good tall tale has to have some aspects of it that are true or could be true. What I saw when I was competing is that some contestants had very good speeches, but they were completely fabricated. And when they're completely fabricated, they don't allow you room for exaggeration, which is the key to giving a tall tale. So when you craft your talk, be sure to include some elements of it that either could be true or actually are true. Tip number 2 is to have a message. Remember that we are sharing a story or a tale, and every story or tale has some sort of a moral or a message at the end. You want to have a plot so that people come away with some sort of key message at the end of your tale. And finally, as somebody else mentioned, include a surprise twist somewhere in your talk. As I mentioned earlier, I was selective in my props. I really only used 2 props, which I didn't show until the very end, and I kept them hidden underneath my clothing so people didn't know that I had them until the very end. And I mentioned earlier that in my tale, Elton John shows up at the wedding of Lulu and Harvey and plays the music. And at that point, I brought up 2 props, a pair of Elton John sunglasses and a feather boa, which I had kept hidden underneath my jacket the whole time, and people didn't know that it was there. So it caught them off guard, and that fun added to the fun because it just came out of nowhere. When you use props like that, it requires a lot of practice. You need to make sure you choose the right clothing so that you can hide everything sufficiently. There are a lot of details to think about, which goes back to my earlier comment about the fewer props you use, the less opportunity for things to go awry. So use them selectively and strategically. So again, 3 tips are: keep it real, sort of. Number 2, have a message. And 3, include a surprise element. Thank you.
Thank you. I love the glasses, the pink frame glasses. I think I'll ping you to find out where I can get one. All right. With that, let's have Toastmaster Joe sharing his tips and tricks.
Thank you, Anuradha. So my tip is going to be a mask. All you need to do is wear a mask for tall tales. Here is the M. The M refers to the moral of the story. There are a lot of the speeches where I have heard like 25 to 30% is spent on the moral of the story. It's good to have, but don't spend too much of time. Every minute, every line of your speech is important. So it could be just one line. The moral of the story could be just one line. And even that could be humorous. If you just remember, my moral of the story was don't search for happiness in the same place where you lost it. People were laughing. So there was a message, but still it was humorous. That's the M. To understand the A of the mask, we need to understand what the S and the K is. The K refers to kids. Imagine you're going to tell a story to a 5-year-old. Would you say, once upon a time, there was a king? No, right? You will get animated. That is the animation, the dramatics which is needed. That's the A. Imagine you are telling a story to a 5-year-old kid. That is the kind of animation you need to bring in. That's the A. So M, A, and K done. All we need is the S. Now I can keep telling that this is why that happened. That is why this happened. It could be a series of things. But remember, the contest is tall tales. Tales. It should be a story. Remember to have a story. And how tall can it be? Len was also talking about it. Exaggeration, yes. But now you can see my virtual background. All of you know that it is not a real background. It's not my real house, right? Now imagine if this is my virtual background. You still know it's not my virtual background, but then a little more exaggerated, but then it might still look a little logical. But imagine if this is the virtual background I'm using. Yeah, so don't get to the space, but don't limit it to your house. Have it at least like a beach. So that is the kind of exaggeration which you can use so that will add more fun. So make it, that is the tall part of it, and the tails part of it, have it like a story. Build it like a story, and remember it's only 3 to 5 minutes. So we cannot spend a lot of time in building up. We cannot get into, we Toastmasters have a bad habit. Even if somebody asks you, hi, how are you? We will end up start giving motivational speech. Not necessary. right? Just one line message should be enough. Don't get into a motivational speech for the last 3 minutes of a 5-minute speech. So this is the mask which you need to wear. Have a message, but short. Be animated as you can, just like how you are telling a story to a kid, and make sure that it is a tall tale. Exaggerate, but with a logic, and make it like a story. Build it like a story, have a twist, have a climax, and end it like that with a bang. Yeah. Over to you, Anurag.
Thanks, Joe. And Irfan, your tips and tricks, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Anuradha, once again, third time. So my tricks were like, I believe the purpose of tall tale is audience no need to believe, all they need to just laugh on the tale which we are telling on that day. The technique will be like exaggeration comes from imagination. So look at around your things. What is the impossible thing which you can make it possible through your content? Okay, whenever you are saying, okay, this is not possible in the wildest dreams. So take that and made it possible. If you are good at narration, narrate a story only on top of only that single object. Right? One take, if I say something, okay, Indian dream, if you took the first exam idea of my speech, that is Indian dream. Okay, first thing is Indians are not taking the visa. What will happen if they are not taking the visa? 3 points, okay. One point you need to cross check, okay, three points you need to write. Connect that. One point will be, they will be, because they are not going to US because they are rich. So they are working from home, they are not going to the office, and there are no beggars in country. Each and every point, scroll down, write 3 points and connect through a proper logic. So that is one thing. If you are not good at narrating, and take the incidents and use a logic between two incident, to whatever incidents you are connecting, make a story and give them. And one more thing is confidence, I feel is more important. If you are laughing with audience, you will lose. Okay, you should be confident that this story is completely true, even if you are not believing. So maintain, say as if it is your story and it is true. There is no fakeness in that story, at least for 5 minutes. So this is the technique. One is imagination. Look at around the things which are complete. It is not at all possible. Make it possible through your speech, and see if there are any incidents which you can become like, I have delivered the content. Look at the things and incidents which you become the reason, because of you only it has happened. These are the two suggestions I wanted to give whosoever contesting in the tall tale. Thank you.
Thanks, Irfan. But a question to you is, how do you keep your face so straight without laughing when the audience is laughing?
Yeah, I control myself, because if you see, I laugh more on the jokes, but on speech day, I don't want to lose with the audience. If I am laughing with audience, I will forget the next sentence what I am going to speak. So I don't laugh with the audience. I wanted to be like, so without laughing, I keep my face so straight. That is the one thing I wanted to do. Sometime I will laugh. Whenever I laugh with the audience, I lost my speech and I forget what I need to say. On the spot, I said whatever I am looking at things.
All right. Thank you so much, our three champions. Now we have the floor open for the audience. Both, our guru and our champions all are available to answer your questions. Zoom Master Vishnu, can we unmute people, and you can either raise hands, or even if you put it in the chat box, we can take the questions.
Yeah,
So I will start up. Yep.
I have allowed people to unmute themselves.
Okay. So does anybody have a question? Please raise your hands, or just unmute and speak. Otherwise, I'll hog the limelight and ask more questions. Okay, I'm going to start with a question to our guru, so that then the audience warms up to asking questions. Distinguished Toastmaster Sameer, in the Tall Tales contest ballot, you said the key critical component is the inclusion for a specific narrative of Tall Tales. Can you elaborate a little more on that?
Yes, thank you so much. That's a good, very nice question, Anuradha. And 4 elements that I saw over there. First one was exaggeration. We spoke about exaggeration in this last 40 minutes. We have been speaking about how to exaggerate things. Second thing is about having pun. So there are different kinds of puns like homographic pun, homophonic pun. So homophonic would be when things are sounding same. We can also have irony. We can introduce irony in the speech. So irony is the best that I felt after exaggeration. So for example, in a dramatic form of irony, the audience knows what is happening, but there are certain characters in the story who are not knowing what is happening, and that takes it to the next level. Like for example, Andaz Apna Apna, one of the best movies in Hindi cinema. Yeah, so that's based on irony because audience knows everything what is going to happen next, but the characters are not knowing. So irony is one thing, and then slapstick is a method wherein you use exaggerated body language like. Joe just mentioned about animation or using animated body language, and I think Lynn also mentioned that move your hand slowly so that it gets captured and it does not blur away. So yeah, so those are the four things that are there.
So I have a question, Anuradha, on behalf of all the audience.
Yep, go on.
So basically, many of the audience gets confused between what is a humorous speech and a tall tale. Now, my question is a tall tale speech necessarily have to be a humorous one?
Who is going to answer the question? Any of the champion can pick it up.
Does a tall tale necessarily have to be a humorous one? Is it a requirement for a tall tale speech to be a humorous one?
I will take it up, Joe here.
Yeah, Joe, go on.
As we're talking here about exaggeration, right? So imagine you're exaggerating and that's a truth. Then how is there an exaggeration? And that means then there is no fun. The reason to exaggerate is to bring in that fun element. More than humor, remember it's about entertaining your audience. Remember I said we are telling a story to a 5-year-old kid. You need to entertain your audience. So humor is one of such tools. Yes, that will immediately get your audience entertained. So that is where a lot of times we get disconnected, where we end up preaching at the last part of it, which not necessarily we need to do. For example, in this current scenario, if I need to deliver, for example, this time, if I need to participate in table topics, I will go with something like, during my school days, there was another schoolmate of mine, classmate of mine, who always had a tough fight in terms of who will come first in the class. And every time you used to come first and I used to come second. And the worst part, every time I come second, my teacher announces my name as Joy instead of Joe. Every time I hear Joy, I lose all my joy because my name just Joe, J-O-E, they still call it wrong. And it continued in my college life. It happened. We studied together. He got first rank, I got second rank, and then still I got called myself as Joy and not Joe. Went on and on, but I was in no mood to give up. I knew that one day it will come where Joe will win. And you all know what happened yesterday in US. Yeah. Finally, Joe did win. So I might probably build it into a lot of things and then say, and that's how finally one day Joe won. And Lynn and Irfan had a long-term dream that one day they wanted to have a chat with a celebrity leader. And since Joe Biden is busy, they're here chatting with Joe Rajan. And guess what? Even in today's meeting, Irfan ends up calling Joe as Joy.
All right.
So are you entertained? Yeah. So if you look at it, when you bring that humor, you feel entertained. This, I can still share it like a story where I was competing and then every time he won, he got first rank, I got second rank. I can just share it like a story. But when there is that humor element, it becomes more entertaining.
Unfortunately, you can't compete this year. Your area director not allowed.
Yeah.
All right.
Moreover, if the more tall the tale is, it automatically become the more humorous. So you no need to make it humorous. If you are writing a tall tale, the more tall it is, the more humorous it will automatically come. You don't need to think about that humor.
Another point to add here, a lot of us feel like whether there should be humor in tall tales. I would say in every speech of yours, if you can have humor, great. Not even in your ISC speech, even in your evaluation, even in your table topics, you can have humor. Why just tall tales? Why just humorous speech? Have humor. as one of our tools in every speech of yours.
Absolutely. Totally agree. There's a question here, Toastmaster Lynn. You use props, so there's no marks for delivery. How do you manage it with the 55% marking in the ballot? So how did you focus on the delivery?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? I couldn't
The question
hear.
was there's more marks for delivery on the ballot. 55% of it is delivery. So how did you use your speech to make sure delivery was managed apart from the props?
So what did I do to provide an effective delivery? Is
Yeah.
that
On the delivery part, what all you use props, you manage hand movements, facial movements. Is there anything more so that we can get the 55% marks?
I think the answer is that I did certain things that you would do for any contest speech, because I think we need to remember, yes, this is a tall tale, but there are certain fundamentals that you want to execute that you would do in any contest speech. And that is eye contact, or try to make as best eye contact as you can with your audience, smooth delivery, just rehearsing until you have your talk down, that you have it in your mind, so that it gives you that sense of confidence that projects well to your audience. So I think the answer to the question is that I spent a lot of time in preparation. I worked very hard on my delivery. I worked very hard in managing everything from how I would use my props. I practiced using my computer so that I knew exactly how I would appear on the screen. When the audience saw me, so that I knew exactly how when I did use gestures, how they would come across. And the collective result of all those small things, I think, helped me in terms of giving an effective delivery for my talks. So we do want to do certain things that are specific for a tall tale, but we also want to do all the things that you should do when you are preparing any contest speech.
Very, very important tip there. Again, yes, delivery practice makes it perfect. So definitely there. With that, I'm going to wrap up this section of question and answers. Audience, the Tall Tale champions will be available, including our guru as well, for answering any questions. So please send it to our club members. Vishnu is the convener. You can send it to him. You can send it to me. And we will make sure your questions get answered. And make sure you compete. This is an opportunity to try something new. This is an opportunity to really make yourself look very tall, physically or otherwise. So use this opportunity and let's see Tall Tales 4th annual contest of Pune Advanced Toastmasters Club bring in some new champions, not just the bright people here, not the one giving advice and not the ones wearing specs like Elton John. We have more people that we can bring in. With that, I'm going to ask, is our president in the room, please?
Yes, I am.
All right. I would like to now request our president to do the vote of thanks and the closing. Thank you.
Thank you, Anuradha. I'm sorry to all the participants out here. I had to step out because Elon Musk invited me to take a test ride on his SpaceX new rocket. And then he was so happy with my presence at his meeting that he gave me the brand new Tesla X also on the way back again. So here I am after a quick trip down and back again. Thank you very much, Sameer. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Joe, as well as Joel. And thank you, Irfan, for that wonderful session. I'm sure Tall Tales is a genre that we all need to build up our capabilities in. I know we do it very effectively in front of our wives and used to do it very effectively in school, but nevertheless, I'm sure we can do it in a much better way when we take part in a Tall Tales contest. So I really want to sincerely thank all of y'all. I want to thank Vishnu, I want to thank Anu and the entire team who has helped to put this event together, and all of y'all who've come and participated in the Pune Advanced Toastmasters Club session out here tonight. I hope you all put your best foot forward as well as your best speech forward when you come in and participate in the Tall Tales contest. We'll love to see you being a part of this amazing event that we've been holding for the past many years now. Thank you And with that, back to you, Anu.
Thanks, Toastmaster, distinguished Toastmaster Ajay. With that, we complete the Tête-à-Tête with the Tall Tale Champion and Guru. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope there was a lot of learning that we got from this session. I personally